High Republic, the Eye of Darkness. Alright, so the Eye of Darkness is the latest book of the High Republic series. This is the phase 3 of the High Republic series of stories. This continues from the stories from the phase 1, with the last book where we saw the destruction of Starlight Beacon. This book takes place a year after the events of that book, where one of the coolest thing about this story was called the Republic. They're down. They've been beaten. They're the Nile have their number. They have these creatures that can pretty much neutralize a Jedi's ability. They've activated this what they call the Storm Wall. Basically, it's a barrier basically that can stop ships from entering the zones that the Nile occupy. And so on that one sense, as a sci-fi fan and as someone that's always looking for something new and original in Star Wars, that was really cool. It's basically like a blockade, but for an entire galaxy and sector. And this story, it brings in multiple characters. First off, one thing I really did enjoy was seeing characters like Baraka find out that he was alive. Because, you know, the last one, because he's the Wookiee Jedi. I love that guy. I love that character. And, I mean, who wouldn't want to see a Wookiee as a Jedi? So it was cool seeing him alive. One thing I really did like about this book was just characters coming to realism to figure out who they are after the huge failure that happened in the last story. They have to realize what they're going to do. In this book, we get a little more focus on Avar Kriss, who's actually probably one of my favorites. She might be one of my favorite Jedi characters I've ever read or seen, maybe. I mean, I think she's a badass, and I love this part of the character where she's not really sure of herself anymore. She doesn't have the connection to the Force that she used to, and she's all alone, and she's basically, if she gets caught, she'll get turned to ash, and she has to avoid that. And there are some cool characters that, like, there's this Ugnaught character that she has to team up with, and a very weird dynamic of Jedi and Ugnaught, but it turned out pretty cool. There were some cool, and there was also a character that showed up from the Phase 2 books, Porter Engle, who was this Jedi character that who's lived a very long life, and him and Avar Kriss team up towards the end of the book. But then you also have the story with Elzar, who's trying to make right of what he did at Starlight, and trying to figure out what can be done, what would his friend do, and all this. This book was great. It was just, like I said, the Storm Wall was such a cool story element that I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's a really interesting story, and only Nile ships can go through them because they have to have the Path engine. Overall, Eye of Darkness was great. And I love the High Republic stories. I love the books. I just love the era. I would love to see this live action one day. And some of these characters are really cool. So yeah, Eye of Darkness is another good book in the High Republic. I wish I had another High Republic book to read, but I don't. So we move on to another Star Wars series that I haven't read yet, and that is the Aftermath series. I'm going to start with the first Aftermath book. I've heard they're okay. I haven't heard great things